Hey guys, this is Random Bro, and today I'm going to be doing a little reading. I'm going to read to you the fanfic that I've been working on over the past 3 to 4 days. It's been in my mind for like several weeks, but I just got the opportunity to write it recently. I just wanted to say real quick that I don't plan to put out any more fan fictions in the future. This is pretty much it for now. Partly because it's been very time consuming. It's taken a lot longer to work on than I thought. So yeah, well, anyway, let's get started. The midday sun was shining brightly above Equestria, and the sky was cloudless with very little wind. It was the perfect weather for flying, and Rainbow Dash took advantage of it. Usually on a day like this, Rainbow Dash would invent new tricks or practice her old ones, but since she had just lost a race against a griffin, she needed to practice going faster at 90-degree turns, if she was going to beat the griffin in the rematch she challenged her to. Rainbow was going as fast as she could across the sky, pushing her body to the limit, and then would take a sharp turn around a cloud. Ugh, not fast enough, she said in frustration. She must be cheating somehow, I know it. After a few moments of rest, Rainbow Dash took to the sky and flew even faster, and at the speed she was going, she didn't notice that she was headed towards the desert. Come on, faster, Rainbow Dash said as she got ready to take another turn. But before she could, something sped right past her face, the wind from it throwing her backward. She began flapping her wings and managed to stop herself from going back any further. What was that? She said, looking around. Rainbow landed on the ground and kept looking to see what that was. Finally, she spotted a white Pegasus who was doing a variety of tricks, one after the other, and did them all very fast, leaving a trail of fire behind him. Rainbow got a little dizzy watching his every move. After a couple of minutes, the white Pegasus landed on the ground, wiping the sweat from his brow. Excited, Rainbow flew to where he was standing. Whoa, that was amazing, the kind Pegasus said. At this, he flew behind a nearby rock. I'm sorry, I didn't know anyone was out here, he said nervously. The name's Rainbow Dash. What's yours? He slowly moves from behind the rock until he was in front of her. My name is Firebolt. After the introduction, the two shook hooves. So what brings you out here, Rainbow? I don't usually see ponies pass by the desert very often. Oh, I was just practicing some turns for a race tomorrow, and I guess I wasn't paying attention. She then had an idea. Do you want to help me practice for the race? Rainbow asked. Firebolt had a puzzled look on his face. You want to race me? Rainbow smirked. Yeah, unless you're scared I'll beat you. Oh, of course not. I'd love to race. It's just I've never been asked before. After deciding where they were going to go, the two trotted to the starting line that Rainbow drew in the sand, and then began. Firebolt was more of a challenge than she thought, but she was able to keep up. Rainbow lost the first race, but as she got better at the sharp turns, she managed to beat Fire in the second one, but just barely. After racing, the two rested for a few minutes. Rainbow Dash sat down to catch her breath. Man, you sure are fast. Firebolt looked over to her. Yeah, you too. As she rested, a thought came to her mind. Oh my gosh, I just remembered. There's a competition in Cloudsdale that you'd be perfect for. I think there's still time to sign up. Rainbow grabbed his hoof and flew upward, taking him along. The white Pegasus resisted. Wait, stop, he yelled. At that, Rainbow Dash let go and he flew back down. What's wrong? She asked. I'd love to compete, but I don't think it's a good idea. Rainbow looked at him confused. Why not? He looked to the ground. I don't want to hurt anyone. She scratched her head, not sure about what he meant. What are you talking about? Firebolt looked at the desert around him. You see, Rainbow Dash, I don't just practice tricks out here. I also live out here. I'm too dangerous to live with the other ponies, so I made this place my home. He pauses for a moment and looks at her. Here, I can't hurt anyone or burn anything down. Dash takes a good look around. Don't you get lonely out here? Yes, I do, but it's not all bad. I visit a few relatives once a month. Oh, and the animals that live out here keep me company. He then looks up at the sky. I guess that's one of the reasons I like flying so much. When I'm up there, I don't feel lonely. All my worries and fears just fade away. When I do loops, dives, and other moves, it makes me happy. Rainbow Dash nodded in agreement. Yeah, I know what you mean. The male Pegasus wanted to change the subject. Hey, Rainbow, you want to do laps from one end of the desert to the other? She looked at him like he was crazy. That's going to take forever. Firebolt smirked. Are you scared I'll beat you? No way. You're on. The two did many races that day. Sometimes Firebolt would win, and other times Rainbow. But mostly they tied. Apart from racing, the two also taught each other tricks and would practice them for hours. Later in the day, as the Pegasi grew tired, they would play with the clouds that began to move in. They would make funny cloud shapes and laugh at them. I'm sure your friend Twilight doesn't look like that when she's angry, he said, holding his side. Well, you've never seen me piss her off before. Firebolt looked over to the horizon and noticed that the sun was getting ready to set. He flew down and found a nice spot to sit and watched the sun set. Rainbow flew down and sat by his side. As they watched the sun go down behind the mountains, he looked over to Rainbow. I really enjoyed spending time with you. Yeah, I had fun too. She began to yawn. Well, I should get going before I fall asleep here, she said, covering her mouth. Firebolt thought for a moment. I was just wondering, if you aren't busy, maybe we can meet again tomorrow? Sure, only I'm not going to go as easy on you. Neither will I, he said. Rainbow waved goodbye as she flew back to her home. Firebolt flew up to his own cloud and went to sleep. Every day for the next 2 weeks, the two would meet at the same time and would do similar activities. Sometimes Rainbow would have to leave a little early to do some weather-related jobs, but came right back as soon as she was done. One day, as they were taking a break from their usual activities, Rainbow began talking about life in Ponyville, since he's never been there, and also talked about her friends. Wow, your friends sure are interesting. And is Twilight really as uptight as you say? Rainbow nodded. Yeah, she is, but she can be cool sometimes too, and I can trust her with anything. Rainbow grabbed his hoof and he went up with her. I want you to meet them. And like before, he resisted. What's wrong now? She asked. What if they don't like me? Rainbow looked surprised. Are you serious? You're like one of the most likable ponies I know, and you would definitely get along with Fluttershy. She likes animals, just like you. Firebolt still had some doubts. But we'd have to go into town. What if I hurt someone? Rainbow put a hoof on his shoulder. Don't worry, I'll be with you the whole time. I promise I won't let anything bad happen. Firebolt looked into her eyes. He knew that he could trust her. Okay, let's go. Rainbow Dash introduced Firebolt to her friends. He got to spend time with each of them. First he met Twilight, they talked for a little, and then he helped her do some research on ancient Equestria, which he found interesting. Then they stopped by at Rarity's, and she had him try on some suits that she designed. He didn't mind. He liked how he looked in them. He also baked pies with Pinkie and tried all of Applejack's apple desserts. He had a great time. Rainbow, however, was mostly bored. Later, they met up with Fluttershy and went with her to the store to buy food for her animals. Firebolt and Fluttershy talked non-stop, mostly about animal-related things. Rainbow thought she was going to go crazy after listening to them for about an hour. I didn't know coyotes were so easy to train, Fluttershy said as she walked out of the store. Sure, you just have to understand their thought process first. As they walked down the street, the three heard what sounded like a cry for help. They looked around to see where it was coming from. A few moments later, Firebolt spots Twilight dangling from her hot air balloon, half a mile away. Twilight was hanging onto some rope, slowly losing her grip. She's gonna fall, he said. Finally, she loses her grip and begins to fall. Without hesitating, the white Pegasus sprints as fast as he can to her location. Just before she was about to hit the ground, Firebolt snatches her up. Are you okay? He asked. Yes, I think so. Firebolt flew down and gently released her. He looked behind him and saw what he had done. The street was a mess. Half of it was burned, and to make matters worse, debris was scattered everywhere from the winds he had made. Firebolt was shocked by what he had seen. A few ponies were knocked over, some had bruises, but miraculously no one was seriously hurt. Soon, a crowd of angry villagers began to surround him. "Look at what you did to my fruit stand, you monster!" someone yelled out. "You broke my windows. Now there's glass everywhere in my store," another pony shouted. As the crowd continued with their complaints, they also began to throw insults at him. Their words really cut through him. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. It was an accident." As the crowd continued, Rainbow Dash grew furious. "Hey, leave him alone. He said he was sorry." "That doesn't change the fact that he could have seriously hurt someone," a pony yelled out. Firebolt had had enough. He slowly flew above the town, and once he was at a safe distance, flew as fast as he could to his home. Rainbow argued a little more, but gave up, seeing that it was pointless, and flew after the white Pegasus. After searching the desert for a few minutes, she managed to find him, and landed behind the white pony. "Fire, are you okay?" "Yeah." "Look, don't listen to them. They're just a bunch of jerks. Who needs them?" He wiped his eyes and turned to face Rainbow Dash. "They're right, though. I am a monster." Rainbow Dash couldn't believe what she had heard. "That's why I have to stay here. I just wasn't meant to live with other ponies." There was a moment of silence. "I don't think you should visit me anymore." This made the kind Pegasus mad. "I know you're just trying to look out for me, but I can take care of myself. I'm not some helpless filly." "I know that." He walked closer to her. "Rainbow, you're the greatest friend I've ever had. Well, the first one too, and I've enjoyed the time we've spent together. And I've looked forward to your visit every day. So the thought of never seeing you again breaks my heart, but it's the way it has to be." "I won't leave you." Firebolt walked away from Rainbow Dash and turned his back to her once again. "Please don't make this difficult. Just go." Rainbow said her goodbye and flew away, wishing she had kept her promise. Over the next few days, Rainbow didn't really feel like doing much of anything. Her friends tried to cheer her up, each in their own way. Twilight gave her a book about how to overcome depression, Applejack baked her some apple pies, Rarity offered to take her to the spa, but despite their best efforts, she didn't feel any better. One afternoon, Rainbow Dash and her friends went out to dinner to celebrate Applejack's birthday. Later, as they left the restaurant, Spike looked up and noticed a strange object in the sky. "Hey, Twilight, what's that?" he asked, pointing with his finger. Twilight sees the object he's referring to. "I'm not sure, Spike." Rainbow looked up and realized something. "Is it just me, or is that thing headed towards our town?" The others began to notice it too. Twilight then decided to go to her treehouse and get a better look at it through her telescope. Her friends went with her. After looking through her telescope, Twilight saw that the object was a giant meteor that was made up entirely of ice. "Can't you use your magic to try and stop it, Twilight?" Spike said, trying to look through the telescope. "I don't know any spells that can stop something as big as this." "We have to warn everyone," Fluttershy said, heading for the stairs. But the citizens had already noticed it a few minutes ago, and were beginning to panic. Meanwhile, Firebolt was out in the desert feeding some birds. The bird he was giving seeds to flew away, and as he watched it fly, he saw something unusual in the sky. He then went up to get a better look, and immediately recognized what it was. "That meteor's headed straight for Ponyville." A look of worry grew on his face. "All those ponies are going to die." Then he thought of Rainbow Dash. "I have to stop it." Firebolt then darted towards the big ball of ice. As soon as he got to it, he went in circles around the meteor, hoping to melt it before it struck the town. He went as fast as he could, making his flames as large as possible. As the object got closer to the town, Rainbow Dash noticed flames beginning to surround the meteor. "That's Firebolt." Just as she was about to fly out of the treehouse, Twilight grabbed her by the tail. "Let me go. I have to help him." "And do what exactly?" Twilight said with a bit of anger in her voice. "All we can do is wait." Rainbow hated hearing that, but she knew she was right. The white stallion began to feel nauseous after having gone around the meteor for 10 minutes, but still kept going. He knew he had to. After a while, the big ball of ice began to shrink significantly, but it wasn't enough. He had to do something else. He was running out of time. He stopped for a moment until his dizziness subsided. He then put distance between him and the meteor, and once it was far enough away, he dove into it as fast as possible, shattering what was left of it into a million pieces. As he broke through, sharp pieces of ice went into his eyes, blinding him. He kept going until his body hit the street. At this, Rainbow Dash flew from the treehouse to where he lay, with her friends following behind. Rainbow began to shake his side, hoping he would regain consciousness. "Wake up! Wake up!" After about a minute, his eyes began to open. "Dash? Did I do it?" Rainbow picked him up and hugged him tightly. "You sure did." They looked around and saw a crowd begin to form. Out of the crowd, the mayor of Ponyville came forward. "The citizens of Ponyville and I would like to thank you for your heroic deed. We are forever in your debt." The crowd began to cheer him. For the first time, he finally felt accepted and felt like he belonged. Pinkie threw him a party to celebrate. At the event, Rainbow and Fire talked for about an hour, laughing at the funny stories she would tell him. In truth, it didn't matter what they talked about. They were just glad to see each other again. Later that night, Rainbow came across some old friends from high school and chatted with them for a bit. Fire went outside for some air. Twilight saw him leave and followed after. She opened the door and saw him looking up at the sky. "Nice moon out tonight," Twilight said as she sat next to him. "I never thanked you for saving my life." "So thanks." "Of course, Twilight." They sat quietly for a minute. "I wish I could live here. Too bad I have to leave soon." "Why can't you stay? We all want you to." Firebolt let out a sigh. "I may have done a good deed, but that doesn't make me any less dangerous." Twilight thought for a moment. "A few days ago, I came across a spell that I think would help you." His ears perked up. "What spell?" She continued. "The spell was meant to be used in battle on another unicorn. It would take away your opponent's magic, thus making it easier to defeat them. It should also take away your abilities as well. And you'd still be able to fly." He could barely contain his excitement. "Let's do this. Let's not waste another second." A sad look appeared on the unicorn's face. "Well, the thing is, your ability's part of who you are, part of what makes you special, and I don't want to be the one to take that away from you." He paused for a moment. "Twilight, I'd still be able to fly, have 5 good friends, and I would be with the mare I love. That's what makes me special. But this is nothing more than a curse, a burden that I've carried all my life. It's made others hate and reject me." He paused and looked down. "My own parents didn't want me. They said I was a mistake." Twilight looked at him and could see the hurt in his eyes. "I don't believe anyone is a mistake. We all have importance. If it wasn't for you, most of us wouldn't be here." "I guess so. And look, if you don't feel comfortable doing this spell, I won't pressure you to do it." He went to the door and turned the knob. Twilight put a hoof on his shoulder just before he could leave. "If it means that much to you, I guess I wouldn't mind doing it." The two found a spot outside where she could perform her spell uninterrupted. "What do I do?" he asked. "Just stay still." Twilight pointed her horn at the stallion. A white glow began to surround him, getting brighter with each second that passed. Finally, the glow began to fade. Then it was gone. He then looked to the sky and flew upward. He did a few tricks and went as fast as he could. The Pegasus looked behind him. There was no fire and no powerful wind. He then flew down and hugged Twilight. "Thank you so much." Twilight hugged him back. "I'm glad you're happy." He released her and went to look for Rainbow Dash. He found her talking to Applejack. He walked over and asked if he could speak to her alone. The two found a room away from the noise downstairs. "So what's up?" Rainbow said as she sat down. He then told her about what Twilight did for him. "You let her do what?" she yelled at the top of her voice. "I never had a problem with the way you were. You didn't have to do that." He explained to her that it was safe for him to live in Ponyville and would be able to see her more, and mentioned how happy this made him. After hearing this, her anger subsided. Later, they left the party and went for a walk. They went until they were outside Ponyville. They sat down on an open field and watched the sky. Firebolt knew a lot about astronomy and told her about some of the stars. Rainbow Dash also had an interest in the subject and told him what she knew. She also told him her favorite star. After an hour, Rainbow's eyes got heavy and was about to fall asleep. "Rainbow?" Rainbow, are you awake? He said, nudging her. Yeah, no, I'm good. Her eyes were still closed. I think we should get going. It's getting late, Dash. When she got up, he saw that she was too tired to fly. I'll take you home, he said. He lowered himself and she got onto his back, putting her hooves around his neck and burrowing her muzzle into his mane. He flew above some clouds near Cloudsdale. Which one's yours? He asked. She pointed with her hoof to the cloud on his left. He goes up to it and carefully puts her down, to avoid disturbing her. He stops for a moment and looks at her. She looks so cute, he thought. Fire leaned in and gave her a kiss. I love you, Dash. He then flew to the cloud next to her and rested. Rainbow smiled. I love you too. Firebolt smiled back.